Harry's Wife, Part 102.83.3. Bombshell. Variety interview. She cannot stay quiet. Part 3. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, dissecting for you the very recent interview that Harry's Wife has conducted with Variety. Let me continue. The questions posed. What were the days like after the Oprah interview aired on TV before an audience of 18 million people? Even before the interview, I hadn't been out because I was so pregnant. The one thing I really remember was Gloria Steinem's birthday, a few days after it aired. Triangulation. I really wanted to celebrate her, false praise, at what I thought was just going to be a small and intimate birthday lunch. I envisaged it being us eating sandwiches in this cottage she was staying at. Instead, it was an extravaganza, by the way, as she deserves. But I hadn't really seen people in a long time, and the interview had come out maybe a week before. Walking into a room alone is never easy for me, false humility, pity play, and I remember feeling a bit uncomfortable. But before I could let my uncertainty linger, Pamela Adlon came up to me and greeted me with such warmth and kindness. She toured me around the room, and at every turn more generosity and love was felt. Maybe it's just a testament to the kind of company Glow keeps, but I also think these women were extraordinary to ensure I felt so welcomed. It's like they knew what I needed to feel in that moment. It meant and still means so very much to me. The power of sisterhood and female support can never be underestimated. So, she airs an interview where she told repeated lies, and then all she can talk about is how people were so lovely to her thereafter. Was this true? Who knows? Given her propensity for telling porcupines, this could just be complete flannel. That again, she believes that people were so lovely to her in the way that apparently a cast member said to her, "Oh, when you got married, everybody in South Africa celebrated it as if Nelson Mandela had been released." Or, "I got married 3 days before I actually got married." And so on and so forth. There's a distinct possibility that this never happened, and this is just a further revision of history in order to nullify the threat to control posed by what happened post-Oprah interview. Or these people did, which doesn't speak very well for them that they listened to a person speak a load of lies and then supported her in this manner. But once again, it's facade management. It's basically saying, notwithstanding the fact that I told a load of porcupines, everybody loves me. Everybody was kind to me because I'm such a person that deserves all of that. Next, what can we expect from Liz Garbus's docuseries on You and Your Husband? It's nice to be able to trust someone with our story. A seasoned director whose work I've long admired. I bet beforehand you couldn't have named one piece of work that she's been involved in, and once again, this is just another lie. Even if it means it may not be the way we would have told it. But that's not why we're telling it. We're trusting our story to someone else, and that means it will go through their lens. There's that word again. It's interesting. My husband has never worked in this industry before. For me, having worked on Suits, oh, have you? We never knew you were involved in that. It's so amazing to be around so much creative energy and to see how people work together and share their own points of view. That's been really fun. So the question was, what can we expect from the series on You and Your Husband? And all we're told is, I really admired her, we can trust her, my husband hasn't worked in this industry before, and it's been amazing to work around this creative energy. Boring. Gives away nothing. Now, of course, she may not want to give anything away. But the point is, as with so many answers that she gives, it's just this marshmallow, a great big beige marshmallow of nothingness. In all seriousness, if you were a decent journalist and you were getting these answers, you'd probably either shoot yourself on the spot or at least think, fuck's sake, I'm going to have to up my game here and really get in there with some juicy questioning. But of course, that's not what this is about. It is just another puff piece. And this is demonstrated with the next question. You're in the midst of a successful first season of Archetypes. I'd like to know what your definition of success is. The show breaks down harmful labels put on women. What are the biggest misconceptions about you? The truthful answer is there aren't any misconceptions, apart from that you're pleasant, kind, empathic and caring. I suppose those are misconceptions, aren't they? But they aren't ones that she's going to share. She answers, I think that what happens, looking in from the outside, when there is this much noise, is that you become dehumanized. But if you remember that someone is a human being, then you don't treat them, talk about them, look at them the same way. My hope for archetypes is that people come out thinking, oh, she's a real person. She laughs and asks questions and approaches things with curiosity. Well, as I often say to people, don't rely on hope. She's a false mistress. And I'd also say the same to you, Harry's wife, because your series is just showing how transparently useless you are as an interviewer and broadcaster, that you are just using it as a means to settle scores as a consequence of all the names that you've been called in the past, and your mid-range narcissism continues to score own goals because with each episode there's plenty of people waiting to ridicule you, and all it's doing is causing more and more people to think that you're a clown. Who has been the most challenging interview so far? I spoke to Paris Hilton last week. I told her at the beginning that I was the most nervous about her interview. I was embarrassed to admit it, but I've had a judgment about her that's based on everything I've seen, and I don't like to come from a place of judgment. No, you'd never judge anybody, would you? I mean, for instance, you wouldn't judge anybody that offers constructive criticism of your behaviour as racist or a hater. You would never be prejudicial in that regard, would you, Harry's wife? You wouldn't judge anybody who innocently asked, so you're biracial and your husband's a pasty-faced ginger. I wonder what your child will look like. And then say, oh, they're racist. You'd never engage in any kind of judgmental behaviour in that regard, would you? No. She continues, but I also didn't grow up pretty. You didn't grow up pretty? I grew up as the smart one. Well, if you like to think that you are, but so far the evidence supports that you're not. So much of what I ended up thinking about when I thought about Paris was envy and judgment, two of the most dangerous things. But then you hear about her trauma and her life and her buying into this persona. Ultimately, I told her, I'm really sorry that I judged you. False compassion, facade management. I wanted her to be safe and comfortable. Yeah, by calling her a bimbo. I told her I wasn't looking for a gotcha moment. I want a got you moment where we get you. Word salad. But that episode is not framed as a defence of Paris. It's the humanisation of her, and that's true for everybody. I don't care what situation you're in. If a 16-year-old boy or girl or a woman in the workplace feels objectified or dehumanised because their character is misrepresented, I hope everyone listening with an open mind could come away thinking, could I just actually consider for a second that there's a person there? What she's doing here is, of course, saying to everybody, I'm human, stop picking on me. I've done a lot of internal work. What? It means sitting inside at your desk with unsold copies of The Bench. Okay. I'm from California. Yes, we know. It's in the water. Which water's that? The one that you keep pouring onto your lawns when there's a drought? And whether you're exercising or meditating, you're sometimes asked to picture a person that makes you angry. You think about them. You get it all out. And then you're asked to think about them as a 6-year-old child. Can you forgive them? That's how I contextually approach that. Fuck me, you must do a lot of meditating because thousands of people, millions of people must make you angry. What does Hollywood as a concept and a business mean to you? The industry has shifted quite a bit since I was part of it. Well, you weren't part of Hollywood. But anyway, how long has it been? I left Suits, oh that again, bringing up the past, right after the 100th episode in 2018. I didn't think I'd ever be in the entertainment industry again. But the entire culture has changed. Streamers have changed things. The ability to create zeitgeist moments like we had in the 90s, where everyone would tune in at the same time for a show or gather for one moment. That doesn't happen anymore. When I was doing Suits, that character Rachel Zane was in your living room with you while you were in your pyjamas eating Chinese takeout. Well, she wasn't, because I never fucking watched it, and probably most of you didn't. But hey, you'd be deluded about thinking that everybody was watching you. After all, as you mentioned in the AOL interview, you have a global audience. Yeah, right. That's how connected the experience felt then. But to create a cultural moment or conversation requires something different today. Podcasting has been really interesting in that way. It might be one of the only remaining forums where people are alone to listen. Where else do you have that opportunity? It's almost meditative, comments the questioner. It is. What I love too is the access to international content that people didn't have before. It's a big departure from what it used to be. Yeah. For instance, in the United Kingdom, we never got any shows from Australia like Neighbours or Home and Away. We never watched any programmes from the United States like Quincy or Columbo or Starsky and Hutch or Cagney and Lacey or Saved by the Bell or Sabrina the Teenage Witch. None of those programmes came over. We didn't have any international content that came our way. We never watched the... as I remember my parents talking about... Van Dyke, I think it was, the Dutch detective. No, didn't watch any of that. You didn't receive anything from anywhere else. There was no international content whatsoever prior to the 90s. Before you left the industry, how palpable was the toxicity that we collectively uncovered in moments like #MeToo and #OscarsSoWhite? We didn't have a name for it at that time. There were just things that were accepted. If there was any discomfort, you just dealt with it. It forced a lot of women to live with this idea of staying silent, not being disruptive, not giving voice to things that might create concern or discomfort. For me, I had tried for so long to land on a show, filming all these pilots, wondering if they would get picked up. All of season 1 on Suits, I was convinced I was going to get recast. All the time, it got to a point where the creator was like, "Why are you so worried about this?" So, the observations about the toxicity that was covered with #MeToo and OscarsSoWhite is brought back to another boring anecdote about her worrying that she wasn't going to be picked up from pilots and that she was going to be recast. So all of the women out there that she supposedly supports, all of you out there that have suffered some form of sexual harassment, sexual discrimination, the toxicity in a workplace, those of you in the entertainment industry who've suffered those experiences, and forget the men, you lot over there, you don't experience harassment, so you're not worth talking about. But all of the opportunity that she has there to talk about it is brought back to guess who? Her, once again. We'll pause here and pick up more of this exciting bilge in the next part. Join me there.